Pay to delete letters used to pay off collections and negative accounts is a fantastic way to help clean up your credit. It can be done relatively quickly, but it's important that you do it the right way. So I'm going to tell you how to create pay to delete letters and how to use them effectively. Check this out. What exactly is a pay to delete letter? In case you don't know. A pay to delete letter is a written offer sent to a creditor or a collection agency, could be either one, requesting that they accept a payment settlement for outstanding debt and that they remove all negative references to the debt from your credit reports across all three of them: TransUnion, Experian, Equifax. So for third-party collections, it's removing the whole account. For original credit accounts, it's removing all the negative references, no more derogatory status, no more outstanding balance, no more payment status as being collection or charge off, no comments in the comment section saying outstanding balance, collection, default, any of that. All negative references should be removed, even when they'll try to argue that it was paid after collection. You don't even want that on there. You want to make sure that you state it as no negative references. All of that should be removed. That's better, and then you want to do that. That's preferable in an original credit account to removing the whole account. Now, there are situations where you may want to remove the whole account with original creditors, but that's a different story. So how does this work? Basically, you're going to be acknowledging that you owe the debt and that you're offering a payment to resolve the debt, but only under the condition that the negative credit entries be removed. Remember that credit negative references. Now, keep in mind that this is between you and the creditor, whether the creditor is the original creditor or the collection agency. It's not the credit bureaus. Credit bureaus do not have anything to do with it. They do not officially endorse pay to delete agreements in any way, shape, form, or fashion. However, many collection agencies are more than happy to do it. I know a lot of you out there have probably received letters demanding payment, and they offer some collection solutions to help you resolve the issue. They just don't necessarily, the letters don't have any mention of any deletion solutions. They're just trying to negotiate and to accept lower payments to help you get out of it. So we need a letter to add that extra language talking about deleting it and all credit negative references from our credit reports. So there's different letters you want to use. And so let me give you the wins and hows for different letter types. Type number one, I call a general use letter. Now, the purpose of this letter is when you want to make an initial offer, an initial negotiation with a collection agency or a creditor. This letter will offer a clear structure and a straightforward term for deleting the debt entry after receipt of payment. So how do you use it? You want to use this letter as a first contact if this is a collection agency that you've never received anything from, or a creditor that you haven't had a conversation with in a long time. And so what you want to do is, if you're creating your own letters, you want to make sure that you have the offer amount, the account number, and all of that included. If you're using a template, you want to make sure you got those items in the right spots based on your specific debt. And you want to make sure that you send these by certified mail with a receipt, proof of delivery. So the tracking receipt. I'm sorry, it was tracking receipt. So now, as an additional tip, I'm going to tell you what I do is I tend to put in a response deadline, because I tell them they need to answer by so many days. Of course, we know they're always sending us stuff with deadlines. Now it's our turn to send them something with deadlines. So I usually use like 2 weeks, 14, 15 days for them to promptly communicate that they've received it and that they either accept it or maybe offer a counter or something like that. That's what we're looking for. But in my response, in there, my verbiage says there's a deadline to prompt timely communication back to us. So that often works pretty good. Sometimes they ignore it, but again, at the beginning, this is our first attempt at offering to resolve the matter. Now, second version is a little bit more detailed. This is one where we assume limited liability of the debt. So we say, okay, we know it's our debt, but we don't believe it's that much. Say the debt is $500. You say, no, I'm pretty sure I only owed like 200. And so I would assume that I know I owe 200. The rest could be they made up some fees. They assess something. You say, no, I'm not paying that. And so by offering a discounted settlement, you are offering a discounted liability. So your liability is only to the amount that you're offering to pay. So it was $200, whatever, right? And so you'll find this useful, that when you dispute part of the debt but still wanting to settle another part, you still want to remove the account from the credit report. So you want to make sure you can do both. Sometimes they'll try to tell you they will only remove it if you pay the whole thing. And so you kind of got to go back and forth with them and say, no, I really want this off. I'm not willing to pay it if you won't remove it. If you won't remove it, I'm not going to pay anything. And then go from there. But it's a little bit of stalemate, standoff, a little Texas standoff, a little bit of, bluffing, so on and so forth. So you want to use this version if you do not want to. Because you're stressing that you're not paying the whole thing. You're paying a fixed amount, a reduced amount, and your letter wants to say that, and that's the only part that you're acknowledging liability of. You want to be clear and you say that. You don't want to leave it assumed that I'm only willing to pay 200 out of the 5, so therefore I'm not assuming liability of the 3. No, you say I'm only assuming liability for the 200, and that's what I'm willing to pay in exchange for you guys removing it from your credit report or removing all the negative information related to it, right? So you want to edit that in your template to make sure you got the right amount. And you want to make sure that you add the account and the agency details so we know where everybody's talking about the right account and that you're being credited. So you don't want to slip up and not have that account information, and then it's the wrong letter or it's the wrong account, and if you paid money for no good reason. So you want to make sure that there's that clear payment deadline. So just like you're giving them a deadline, you're telling them I'll have it paid by. And that'll be clearly spelled out. So as an additional tip, what I tend to do is I tend to emphasize to them in the letter through the verbiage that the agreement must be confirmed in writing before any payment is made. So even though you're telling them, you want to make sure you tell them in advance that I'm sending this to you, we're agreeing to this. Please note that you accept this agreement, and that only after you accept this agreement and send it back to me will you get payment. So you don't want to leave them guessing. You want to be clear that you are not doing anything until they sign off on it. You're not paying any money until they sign off on it. So that's key. You want to make sure that's in there. You can bold it, stars, whatever, but that's important. Now, the third type of letter is something you use when you want to try to maybe do a stronger negotiation, have stronger terms. So the purpose of this letter is to provide those strong terms where you may include clauses for liquidated damages if the agreement is breached. So you may offer damages if you breach to make them feel a little bit warm and fuzzy about it, and they have to, and then also you would tell them that they're going to have to pay you damages if they breach. So a little bit stronger language, you say, on that both sides, just kind of hold people a little bit more accountable. Now this letter is best suited for disputes where, number one, the creditor may be reluctant to cooperate because, they're not really interested. They don't think you're serious. So you've sent them 1, 2, maybe 3 requests for that, and they've gone ignored or they refuse to or whatever. You can make reference to each one, you make reference to the previous one just to let them know you're serious about resolving the debt. Now, you're sending this one because sometimes they ignore those previous attempts because they feel like they're not legally protected against anything. They're agreeing for you to do something similar to what you didn't do before, and so they feel like it might be a waste of time. But by offering some legal protection in there, those clauses, that may get their attention and make them be more willing to work with you. So if you're using a template, you want to make sure that you adjust the liquidated damages to reflect a reasonable figure under whatever state law that's applicable to you. So whatever state you're in the state that the agency is or creditor, you want to make sure that you're not asking for or offering anything that's legally unreasonable and legally unenforceable. And you also want to include in the language that you will file a complaint with the CFPB if they breach the agreement after they've agreed to it. That'll help strengthen your position too, because again, when they know you know, then they take you more seriously. Now, I often do, in these cases, I reference all of those prior attempts that I made the first, second, third time, and reference them and say, look, we're making good faith effort to resolve this debt. We would like some cooperation. We're willing to work with you if you're willing to work with us. And then lastly, there's the one where it's not just an offer letter. It's an actual formal agreement. It's pay to delete and it's agree to pay. Now, this version is more or less serving as a formal contract, which will be legally binding to both parties, you and the creditor, as under the terms of the agreement. But you're creating it, so you're in control. So keep in mind, you're not binding yourself to anything that you didn't create. Remember, the ball is in your court. Now, I recommend using the formal agreement when you're trying to settle larger debts, like $5,000 or more, and you're agreeing to payments, and so that this legally binding, so they know that you're serious. Even if it's a large amount, but you're making structured payments, they may feel better about that because they don't really want to start all over again with a new loan. You didn't pay the first time, so sometimes they feel that. So by offering them a formal agreement, this is a whole new piece of work that they got for you, and sometimes it's very helpful in getting their attention with these larger debts if you're really truly wanting to pay them off and resolve them, not just from a credit standpoint, but from a legal legal responsibility standpoint. So again, you only want to use this after they've agreed to a settlement. So whether they initially agreed based on the offer letter, and then you add this, or they respond to the offer letter, you want to make sure that what's in here is what you guys agree to. So you may verbally agree to something over the phone, and as far as figuring out numbers, you put that in your letter, then they agree to that because the letter is reflecting what was discussed, in other words. And so you do that, and then they go ahead and they accept that, you make payment, but you want to make sure in this formal agreement that you include both yours and the creditors. If the creditor has a authorized agent to sign on behalf of the company, you want to make sure that that's on the agreement, and that agreement should set a clear deadline for payment, and additionally it should also specify the payment method. Now, I recommend certified check or money order. I know they may want you to do something electronic, but I recommend you use a process that is trackable and you can create a paper trail through printed paper things. So I always recommend that you keep everything in a manila folder, paper trail. Having PDFs and everything is cool, but those are always subject to software and access issues. Having it printed in paper, as long as it's on good ink and it's kept in a clean, dry place, you got paperwork for the ages. So let me talk about three key elements in this whole pay to delete deal. Real simple. You want to have a certified payment clause that will ensure that payment be made by certified check or money order, so we can check, so the parties can track compliance. You want to have a CFPB complaint clause that will warn them that failure to comply with the agreement that parties set forth will result in you filing a formal complaint to the CFPB that they breached the contract that you made and agreed to with them in good faith. And then, you want to have re-reporting protection. What is that? You want to include a clause in the contract stating that they cannot go back and re-report this debt after you settled it and you paid it off. So they can't go back and put it back on your credit. They got to remove it, and they can't go and put it back. And that if they re-report it, that is considered that you will take legal action. And guess what? You have the ability to, because any lawyer will tell you if a company, if they breach a contract, and if that clause is in there, they can't go and do it, and they're subject to themselves. So whether you file a complaint with CFPB or hire a lawyer and sue them, you have a strong case if that language is there, they agreed to it, and then they broke the contract. They violated, they breached, as they say. And then lastly, I know I said it was three elements. It wasn't three elements. There are key elements, and this was item 3. But you want to provide written confirmation as a requirement in there. So you want to specify in the agreement that it be confirmed in writing, and that they know that it must be confirmed in writing before you'll make any payment. So they can't come back and say later, oh, we never executed because they never paid. No, you let them know that they have to confirm before the money is paid. Don't leave it to assumption. State that in the agreement, just like I told you to state that in any of your letters. You always want to state that they got to pay, that they got to act first before you pay. So some directions on how to send the letters. So obviously you want to customize the letter. You want to make sure that you got the name, account address, and offer amount in the letter. Ensure that the payment terms and deadlines are clearly spelled out. You want to make sure that you send the letter via certified mail so that it can be tracked, and ensure that, I've said that before. You want to keep a copy of the letter and the mail receipt for your records. I've told you hard copies, you want to have a copy. Keep in a file. So if later on you escalate, you got documentation. If you want to file a complaint with the CFPB, you have documentation. If you want to take them to court, sue them, you have all your documentation. This helps you. And so you want to wait. Once you send that out and you mail it out, you want to wait for confirmation, right? How long do you wait? You want to allow 15 to 30 days for them to respond. You would expect them, hopefully you want to say they accept your agreement, but they may counter. Let's hope not. They may even reject it. We definitely don't want that. We don't want to have to start over. But you want to allow them 15 to 30 days. And if you don't get any response from them at all within that deadline, I recommend that you send a follow-up letter. It can be the exact same letter and then add it, this is a second request. Or you can do a full-on escalation by filing a complaint with the CFPB. Then, of course, if you do hear back from them, they agree, they accept your terms, and they say, cool, obviously you want to pay them. So then you go about issuing payment, upon receipt of that agreement, signed receipt of a signed agreement. So you want to use certified check or money order, as I said before. I recommend that. And then, of course, you want to go back and monitor your credit reports to make sure that all those negative references were in fact removed. You have to give it time for that, so it may not show up for the next cycle. Sometimes they pop up on the credit monitoring if you got real-time notifications, so it'll let you know. So you want to be on the lookout for those changes that they did what they said, that what they promised to do after they got their money. Now I want to talk quickly about some common pitfalls and how to avoid them when you're doing this. First of all, you want to avoid verbal agreements. I told you verbal agreements mean nothing. Everything must be in writing, and you want not only in writing but written confirmation of the agreement. So when they agree to it, they have to agree in writing, not just say, hey, we got your letter, we're cool, go forward. No, they either need to send a written response saying we agree to the aforementioned agreement, or they may sign the letter that you got saying we received it by an agent, signed and dated saying we agree to this. So you want to do that. Then you and then don't make any partial payments without an agreement, because if the agreement talks about partial payments, that'll be part of the agreement. So again, no payments before an agreement, whether it's partial or in whole. Do not make any payments without receiving that directly from the creditor or agency by an authorized party. Okay, you don't put in there any unenforceable liquidated damages, because you want to ensure that any damages clauses that they're reasonable in the eyes of the court, in the state, and that you want to avoid anything about unenforceability in court. So that's it in a nutshell. So, just so you know, you can do all of this. You can create letters. I've given you a way to create the letters. You can write your own letters. You can incorporate a lot of what I just told you here using ChatGPT to incorporate your letters. Of course, we know ChatGPT is AI. You could also buy templates, but the templates don't necessarily speak directly to your situation. You got to do a lot more editing. Now, of course, if you haven't already, you can register. You can go to my website and click and register, and I can provide you access to my DIY website, where it's a platform with AI software where you can fix your credit yourself. You can dispute letters. You can do pay to deletes, and the system, the AI, will generate all of this for you. Print the letters out, and you can print them out and mail them yourself, or you can go a step further and you can use the mail service and they will send them out for you if you want to do it that way. So you'll see links down there. You can also go to my website and register there. Anybody who registers is going to automatically get that information. And again, we're not talking about any kind of paid registration. It's just you registering so I can provide that information to you and get you access to the platform, and you can take advantage of that. There's no monthly fees involved with it. It's free credit repair, and I provide that. At this point, I'm providing it for free. That could change in the future, so I advise you, upon seeing this, if you're interested, do that as possible. I'm not putting a hard date in this video, but you will know right now it's free access. So in conclusion, we know that these letters can be powerful tools, and the credit builder will amplify the effectiveness of that tool for improving your credit by removing these negative items and all negative references. However, they require careful negotiation, proper documentation, and tracking to ensure your success. You want to use these versions or something similar to what I just talked about, and you want to use the right one that's based on your situation and your goal. But you always want to insist, no matter what, that we're doing written agreements. Everything's in writing before making any payments. If terms are not honored, you want to let them know that you will be filing a CFPB complaint to help hold those creditors accountable when they do these written agreements. Doesn't matter whether it's the creditor, doesn't matter whether it's a third-party collection agency. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. All of the contact links are there in the description. If you're interested in the free credit repair platform, you want to click the link down there or go to the website, and you can register for a free credit analysis, and that'll also get you access to it as well. So I hope you guys find this helpful. I'll see you in the next video, family. Take care.